Hello everyone, I am here. I'm not quite ready yet because I'm still fixing up some things for the tea time, but I'll be right there. So just enjoy the music. I need to cut up the sandwich. So I'll get my comments open so I can see what you guys are saying. Alright, we got Wyatt here, we got Spyro, we have Tyler, Ken, Normandy is here, Mike, RMS Gigantic. Awesome. Hello, everyone. Hello, Luke Michael. I just gotta cut up this. For today's stream, I made a, like an English version of a, egg sandwich. And I'll kind of explain that in a little bit. Let's see. I just have to cut the crusts off. To make it easier to cut tea sandwiches into fingers, you have to kind of freeze them a little bit. So that way, like the stuff you put in them, whether it's like cucumbers or spread or if it's egg like today, then you don't want that stuff to mush out the sides when you're cutting it. So you have to kind of partially freeze it. Alrighty, that's good. Now we turn on the kettle to heat the water. Dangerous Brian says, try not to burn your fingers like you sometimes do. I know, right? Daniel says, Alex, what are your thoughts on Eureka and Palisade number 4? That is a beautiful narrow gauge engine. The Eureka and Palisade. I love that engine. Okay, I gotta heat these up in the tap water real quick. Okay. Hello, everyone. There we go. Gotta make sure the microphone is pointed in the right direction. Alright, so... Doc says, "Hi Alex, hope you're having a good week. Going to bug you with cool Alex trivia again. Did you grow up visiting Disney or start as an adult?" I grew up visiting Disney. So when I was a kid, my dad and my grandmother, they would both take me to Disneyland because back then I used to live in Southern California. And pretty much Disneyland was, you know, if you grew up in Southern California, Disneyland was kind of like in your backyard, you know. Especially if you grew up, you know, before the 2000s. Disneyland was still relatively cheaper. So you were more likely to visit Disneyland back then. And it was, like I said, it was kind of like part of your backyard. It was just some place you went for birthdays, for, you know, for celebrations, anniversaries, all that kind of stuff, family get-togethers. That's what you did. Now today it's so expensive that you really couldn't just do that anytime you want. You really have to invest a fortune. But, how did I close that? Okay. But yeah, so... so I grew up going to Disneyland all the time, and then, and then eventually my father got a job there when I was really young, and then I started going there more often, and as I became a teenager, I would go there with all my friends and stuff. So yeah, Disneyland is in my blood. It's part of my upbringing. SS Normandy says, "Will you do a 4K video on Queen Mary sailing from the UK for the last time?" You mean like one of the newsreels that I've been posting? Because I have those. I'm slowly converting them one by one because I have a whole collection of newsreels about the Queen Mary, and I've been using them for my videos. So whenever you guys see old footage of the Queen Mary in my videos, that's the newsreels. But now that I have this new software that lets me, you know, convert it to 4K, I've been trying to do that. It doesn't always look perfect because the videos to start off with are really low quality. So it's hard for the AI software to determine like where the details should be, but it looks better than it did before. So, and it fits nicer with the new 4K videos I make. So, yeah. Let's see. Air Arrow says, "Any update on Queen Mary repairs?" No, I would have made a video if there was. Okay, I think... Now we'll dump out half of this. Yeah. There we go. Let that preheat a little bit. Spyro says, "Hey Alex, can you send me the watertight compartment diagram of the RMS Queen Mary and the RMS Queen Elizabeth?" Wait. I don't know which one you're talking about because I have two different kinds. So, but with Queen Elizabeth, I only have one different kind. Actually, I don't have... No, yeah, I do have one. Only one. So... Oh, that's why that's not as blue. Oh, who cares? Okay, so... There's one that is... It's called a deck plan. and it looks down at the engineering spaces of the Queen Mary, and I kind of worked some magic on it to create one for Queen Elizabeth, and it's color-coded so you can see like the differences and what the spaces are. But then there's another one that I only have for Queen Mary, and it's a cutaway, so it's the cut down the length of the ship, and you can see how high the watertight compartments rise in the ship. So I'm not sure which one you want, but either way, send me an email and ask me for those, and then I will respond back with them. So, but you'll have to tell me which ones you want. Hey, Steve. Steve from Blue Red Band Productions is here. Spyro asked the question twice. Hopefully didn't. Third time. Let's see, are you going to go for a fourth? No, okay. Yeah, I can send you both. Daniel says, hey Alex, I have two questions. One, did Queen Mary sustain heavy damage when it collided with HMS Curacao? And two, did any people die on the Queen Mary when it crashed into Curacao? So yes, Queen Mary did sustain damage. There's plenty of photographs of the bow stem being crumpled. There was a huge gash, like where it just crumpled at the bow stem when it collided into Curacao. And that damage, thankfully, the watertight compartment that, what am I trying to say? The watertight bulkhead behind it had kept any seawater from really flooding the ship. So, and the watertight compartment there is actually pretty shallow compared to the, from the bow stem back. It's not that far. So it maintained its watertightness. So there was no issues of the ship like flooding and sinking or whatever. But it was pretty badly damaged, and the ship had to go to Boston because the ship couldn't get repaired in England or the UK or anything like that. It was too dangerous. So the ship had to sail very slowly to Boston, and it was put in dry dock there and repaired. The bow stem was completely repaired. So I have photographs of that too. And then as for did any people die on Queen Mary when it crashed into Curacao? There's no stories of people dying from that collision in terms of on the Queen Mary, but I haven't heard any stories of people dying on that. And to be honest, it would be hard to confirm it whether or not, because once again, what happened during the war was kept entirely between the British Admiralty and the United States Department of Defense. So all that stuff was kept secret, and really there's not much ability to confirm if GIs died aboard the Queen Mary, and when and where and how. So all that stuff is kept secret. Gray Starline says, Alex, if the White Star Line was still around today, do you think that they would make Titanic 2? No. No, because it's almost like building a replica of the World Trade Center. Like, it's in poor taste. And I think that I think that any company that wants to build a Titanic 2, even if they're not White Star Line, I think that would be in poor taste. I don't think it's something that you should enjoy a cruise aboard. It's one thing to build a stationary museum to teach people, but it's another thing to build a cruise ship out of it. I think that's in very poor taste. Ken says, what was it like to work at Disneyland during grad night? Seems like when my graduating class went, it was mayhem. It was mayhem, and I loved it. I loved working Disneyland grad nights because, and none of my coworkers did. They hated it because they didn't like working. They didn't like dealing with all the teenagers. But I thought it was hilarious because so much stuff went down, and it was so wild. It was like no day you've ever had at Disneyland. And so, and it would be like 2 a.m, and the kids would be like walking around, and my apologies, this is not an adult conversation, but they would do things that were not very child friendly. And so we would have to, call security all the time for everything, and then there was also like, it was also allowed, yeah, what am I trying to say? It also allowed us to kind of help kids. I mean, you could look at it as we were like babysitters. That's kind of what it was. But I think of it as helping them, because a lot of them would come in and their friends would sneak like alcohol or drugs into the park. And so their friends would sneak like alcohol or drugs into the park, and they'd try to like do those things while they were in the park. And some of them needed like medical attention, but they were too afraid to like tell any adult what they were on. And so it was kind of our job to just like calm them down and be like, look, this isn't like to get you in trouble. This is just like for your safety, because there were like, they're kids. They don't understand that there's life outside of being a teenager. So all they think of is, oh no, I'm going to be in trouble. I don't want to tell anybody anything I'm on, So it was kind of an interesting little challenge to try to, make them understand, that we're there to help them. Okay. Oh, and I was going to do this one. And then they did other things, like they would like sneak into places and stuff like that, and it was always fun to like scare the crap out of them and be like, you can't be here, and stuff like that. So those were fun. Those were really fun. But boy, those grad nights were long, because the park wasn't fully crowded, like it was never filled to capacity with kids. They always maintained a certain capacity for grad night, because they wanted to make sure that there was a large amount of staff for the ratio of kids. And so, yeah. But then you also got to see like some crazy things, like the kids came with chaperones. So the schools would assign like adults as chaperones. And the chaperones were allowed, at the time, I'm not sure if they do it anymore, but at the time, the chaperones were allowed to, they were allowed to be amongst themselves and not have to deal with the kids. So once they got the kids in the park, they would say, okay, meet me every hour at this location, and so I can do a head count, make sure everybody's still here and everybody's okay. But then outside of that, they were allowed to just, the chaperones, all the adults were allowed to be amongst themselves, and the kids would go off and do their own thing. But sometimes you would see, like, some of the chaperones really didn't care about the kids at all. Like, they were there because it was their, I don't know if it was free or reduced ticket to Disneyland, so you'd really see, like, the character of the adults, because I remember, like, we caught some kids that were doing drugs, and we were trying to, like, get the chaperones, and they were like, oh, who cares, just have the police detain them and we'll come by later. And we're like, what? No, that's not how this works. You either go with the kid now or we kick you out. So it was just like, my lord. So it wasn't just the kids that were teenagers. Like, the adult chaperones were also the ones that were just like children, trying to wrangle them all up and be like, hey, take some responsibility. I loved those days. Yeah, the original Disneyland sign is a bomb. Is the bomb. Steve. Yeah, I think there is something going on with the ballast, because they started doing testing, surveying, I should say. They recently, this, Steve. They recently got this other organization to start work on checking the tanks of the ship, and that work won't end till next year. I think they said it would take about 9 to 12 months to complete the whole survey. So I think they will be draining one ballast tank at a time and then checking them and surveying them. So I kind of lied to everybody. There is there is news on the Queen Mary, but I'm working with Steve to figure out when we should make an update video for you guys. You know, I have to make sure that Steve is available. I have to make sure I'm available. And frankly, there are so many people on my channel that are individually asking me, is there any news? If I went and like made paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of this is the news, you know, I would be doing that for like everybody that asks, and I get those questions every day. So what I tell them is, no, there's no news, because if there was, I'd make a video. That's kind of true. There is news, but I haven't made a video yet because I need to work on that. So, but it's not, the other thing too is I don't want to get people excited because I can't show you anything. The news that's happening is happening behind the scenes. So there won't be any photographs to show you. There won't be anything to, there won't be anything that will make you excited to see. That's all I'm trying to say. So, yeah, it's one of those things where I kind of wish there was something to show you, but there really isn't. All the work that's being done on the ship right now is happening all inside, behind closed doors. Okay, so this should be cool enough now, because today is the Lady Grey tea, and the Lady Grey tea needs to cool down, or it needs the water not to be so hot. Great, I got this thing in a... There we go. Alright, so we'll give that 4 minutes. Yeah. $26. Okay, so yeah, I do like the newsreels. The newsreels are really cool. Spyro, my email is in the description of the video. Doc says, would you ever do an ASMR history channel? Thanks again for answering our questions. How would that work, an ASMR history channel? How would that work? John says, hi Alex, did the Queen Mary have a Titanic-like, or maybe more correctly, a White Star Line-like guarantee group on her maiden voyage? I'm sure she did. Steve, if you're here, could you answer that question? Did Queen Mary have like a guarantee group on her maiden voyage? I feel like she would have. I feel like that's just a thing. Oh, Tyler, you gave away my secret. That's why Spyro's asking for that stuff. Two more minutes on the tea. Spyro says, Tyler and I need them to accurately recreate RMS Queen Mary as well as RMS Queen Elizabeth. Oh, okay. Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, I don't even have any deck plans of Queen Elizabeth. I don't know anybody who does, who can give them to me either. That's the thing. Hi, Emma. It's been a while. Oh my gosh. Daniel says, have you heard about the Great Western Steam Up that happened in the Nevada State Railroad Museum? I did, yes. A friend of mine asked me once if I would go to that, and I would, but I didn't know until like a week before it happened, and there was no way I could have arranged transport to go down there. So, but yeah. Yeah, Steve says he'd have to look into that question about whether Queen Mary had like a guarantee group. You know, I'm sure she probably did have something like that because you know, it's a new ship. You kind of need people there who've built it to know how to fix it if something goes wrong. I feel like she would have, yeah. SS Normandy says, every Oceanliner fan started as a Titanic fan. Not necessarily. A lot of them did, but I've talked to some people who actually knew about Queen Mary before they knew about Titanic, which is surprising, I know, but okay. So now we give that a quick stir. So the Lady Grey tea is pretty much the only tea that I don't put milk in, because it's so delicious on its own, and it's also very light, so the milk would just not work well with it. There we go. And you always stir back and forth, not around and around. Cool. Steve says, alright, need to go, but when you conclude tea time, please call me. Big news, I need to tell you. Oh, okay. Oh, that'll be a while from now. Alright, I will. What? Oh, Tyler says, I have deck plans of Queen Elizabeth. Oh my gosh. Yeah, send those to me. Oh my goodness. I need deck plans of Queen Elizabeth. Doc says, oh my goodness, ASMR history is huge. It's more lucrative for men since there is a shortage. You just give any of your regular content in ASMR format, whispered or soft-spoken. You should check some out. That's weird. I've never heard of that. Oh my gosh. So I'm guessing it's lucrative because there's only women that do it? That's interesting. I think Queen Mary is one of the few ships that didn't go through several name changes. Yeah, that's true. Doc says, some people are naturals at ASMR, and I try to encourage people when they see they have talent. Old school ASMR is bad when it's forced. I've never done ASMR before, so I'm not really sure how that would work. But I have the microphone for it now. I recently upgraded my microphone, so it's a lot better. It's like the kind that, you know, like radio hosts use. Spyro says, Tyler, okay, could you email those deck plans to RMS Queen Elizabeth to Alex? That way he could then email them to me. Well, then why doesn't Tyler just email them to you? Why? I don't know. RMS Queen Elizabeth has better light fixtures than the Mary, except the veranda and the observation bar. I can see that, yeah. Tyler. Well, you're welcome. Alright, so let's try out this tea here. Yum. So yeah, so I will talk with Steve about when we can do an update about the Queen Mary. Just again, folks, like, don't expect anything big. Don't expect there to be like stuff that you'll be able to see and kind of, you know, oogle over, you know, because there's no new photos, there's no new, everything that's happening is happening inside the ship, so it's, the update would just really be more of a verbal update. Letty McQueen is here. My dog is staring at me. Should I be concerned? No. Kobe, hello. Max says, make a cooking channel. You seem like a good chef. I was a chef, actually. And I tried to start a second channel. I really did. I have, the second channel still exists, but I don't have time. I spend all my time on this channel making content for this channel. There's literally no time in the day for me to make content for the second channel. That's why the second channel just died. That's why I don't promote it anymore, because I just haven't had the time. So it just, like, it's weird, like, all this history and stuff, it just consumes everything I do. All right. Normandy says, so sad to see all the major ships from the 1930s scrapped or either destroyed. That's true. Thank you, Kobe. All right. I had to hide that person. I think they have some kind of fetish for farting. Isn't that funny, the kinds of people that show up on all these channels? They got nothing better to do. Spyro, I will check my email later. I can't check it now because I'm on a live stream. Robert says, Lusitania set out on her maiden voyage 115 years ago today. Was it today? Wow. 115 years ago. Oh, I wish I knew that like a month ago. I would have tried to like make a video for today about Lusitania. Oh, jeez. I'm so new to ocean liners, I can't like, you know, I don't have like a calendar that shows me when all these ocean liners have their maiden voyages. So it's like if I knew like a month ahead of time, I could try to prioritize a video about a certain ship, but oh boy. Normandy says, it would be really nice to see the Queen Mary with other competitors to compete with so she could beat them all. Well, I mean, Queen Mary only needs to beat her best competitor. She doesn't need to compete all the others. It's kind of the reason why, like, in racing and stuff like that, they kind of narrowed down the competitors, because there's no need for the best to compete with all the others at the exact same time. Like, you already you kind of know who's gonna be, you know, the top few, you know. So, same thing with Queen Mary. Kobe says, do you think you will make a memorial video about 9/11? No, I don't, because my channel focuses on history of things usually before the 1950s. The only exception to that is my Disneyland videos, but that's because it's Disneyland and I've always been a huge fan of it. But yeah, my stuff is all about the age of steam and, you know, and sometimes stuff that comes before that, but yeah. Max says, Lusitania and her sister are really nice looking vessels. They really are, yeah. Oh my gosh, Element, happy birthday. Robert, I agree with you. Mauretania is the better looking sister. I love Lusitania, but I think Mauretania looks prettier. These egg sandwiches are so good. Take forever to make, though. And sometimes when you have to peel the shell away from the egg, it's kind of annoying. I used the last of my fresh dill in that, so that way it would have some, like, flavor to it. Tyler says, what do you think of broad gauge trains? Not really my thing. Lightning McQueen says, if you could bring back any ship from the dead, which one would it be? Mauretania. Normandy says, Queen Mary 2's bridge is inspired from the Normandy in such ways like the curvature. I don't think so. Like, when I look at Queen Mary 2's bridge, it looks like a mix between the original Queen Elizabeth and the QE2. When you look at the bridge of Queen Mary, she's got that, like, that look to it that looks like the QE2's bridge. So I don't think at all it looks like Normandy. I think it looks like a combination between QE2 and QE. Kobe says, I want to try to make the cucumber sandwich, but I'm honestly not sure if I would like it. It depends, you know, some people don't like cucumber at all, or some people don't like, you know, the ingredients in there, but I think it tastes delicious, especially, like, you know, but it's got to be done right. You know, it's got to have the pinch of garlic and the pinch of salt because without it, it'll just be flavorless. Max, have you ever heard of the Flying Scotsman? Oh, yeah. Flying Scotsman's a very famous locomotive. Okay, let's see. So, Sunday's Tea Time live stream actually look really cool because I've ordered another camera. Because in the coming months, I will be doing more traveling to take video and stuff like that for history videos and things, and vlogs even. So I've ordered another camera, and that camera can help me live stream. So there will be a really cool surprise on Sunday for how this Tea Time live stream will look. It will look different from how it looks right now. And so yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I think it'll look great. Did Queen Mary's bridge get a refit? Because it looks so boxy nowadays, or am I just imagining things? You're imagining things. It's the same bridge she's had since 1936. Happy late Labor Day. Has Labor Day already passed? I didn't notice. Well, happy Labor Day to you, too. If you're referring to Queen Mary 2, she had to have her bridge wings extended for the bridge team's proper vision over her sides. Oh, so Queen Mary 2 had her bridge extended. Wow. Max says, what locomotives are you a fan of, American or British? American. There's something about the way that old American locomotives look. I don't like locomotives that are newer than the year 1900. I like them all between, 1860s through 1900. And the smaller they are, the better, to be honest, because there's something about the old narrow gauge engines that have only a few drive axles. They are really cool. Normandy says, on eBay, someone was selling a fan from one of the staterooms. I'd like to own more Queen Mary artifacts and stuff, but boy, those things are expensive. Gigantic says, hi, Alex, how's your day today? It's going really good. Just been working on a video for Friday. Tyler says, I know you don't like to talk about Titanic, but do you think people like to overcomplicate and sensationalize Titanic? Yeah, I think so. I think that people look at Titanic with this romanticism, they don't see it for what it was, just another ordinary ship that sank so tragically with a whole bunch of people dead. Instead, they see it as this magnificent vessel of the finest luxury in all the world, the largest ship ever built, that, I don't know. It's like, it's so weird. They hold it up on this pedestal, and I'm like, that's really, historically speaking, that's not what Titanic was, Hey, Granny Gaming. The tea today is Lady Grey. Max says, Alex, do you know what's the most hated ocean liner? No, I don't. Oh, Granny Gaming, you saw the iPhone 14 launch? I didn't watch that. Is it interesting? One Dalmatian asked, did you get a chance to see the Great Western Steam Up? No, I was just telling everybody that I didn't know about the Steam Up until 1 week prior to it. And so I never had a chance to actually, arrange transport to go down there. I would have needed, a month's notice, but I didn't know anything about it until a week before it happened, so... John, to answer your question, there was somebody who had a fetish who was trying to get me to talk about it. I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. That's really weird. Just inappropriate stuff, People who just don't know how to talk to other people. But to answer your question, what happened to the windows on Queen Mary's forward superstructure? I understand she isn't how she was when she arrived in California. That's true. The forward superstructure, specifically on sun deck, no other deck, it's only sun deck, those windows were enlarged to appear a lot like the windows that were surrounding the veranda grill. And the reason why was because those used to be cabins when the ship arrived, but they turned them into like a large room. I don't remember what the first thing that occupied that room was, but today it's just a large empty space. But it used to be a bunch of cabins. That's why there were small windows. Plus, it was the forward superstructure, and, you know, you need small windows. So that way, if a large wave comes, it doesn't smash the windows. But, yes, so only on the sun deck, on the forward superstructure, did they enlarge the windows. And then they did something similar above the veranda grill to where today is Sir Winston's. Back then, that was crew cabins, and those had small windows, and because they were building a restaurant there, they needed big windows, so they enlarged those windows too. But yeah. Kobe says, do you know the name of the Art Deco vase-looking lamps used in Queen Mary and the Normandy's open passenger spaces? I don't know about Normandy. I couldn't tell you anything about Normandy. But on Queen Mary, the Art Deco lamps that looks like vases, I'm guessing you're talking about specifically the ones in the first class main lounge. Because there were a bunch of those lanterns, like, everywhere. They're just called vase lamps, and they were all over the ship. But I think you're talking about the ones in the main lounge, and those are made of onyx on the Queen Mary. So, but they're just called vase lanterns. There's really, as far as I understand it, there's no specific name for them. QE2's wheelhouse was nicknamed the Tank, due to being small for a ship of her size. QE2 also had the nickname of the Black Pig due to her lack of low-speed maneuverability. That's a strange one. Spyro, yeah, you're right. In 1912, RMS Titanic was the world's largest man-made object. Or man-made moving object, I should say. But yes, that's true. But the thing is that people, when they talk about that, they make it so you don't really, like, think about Olympic. Olympic was just 6 inches shorter. So it's like, you know, Olympic was just as large. But, again, that information is just condensed into just Titanic. And so that's why I was saying, like, you know, they glorify it as the largest, you know, object, but, you know, while that may be true on paper, Olympic was just as big. But, you know, so they make it sound like it's the only one. You know what I'm saying? Like, they make it sound like it's the only one, and it wasn't. Max says, SS Californian for turning of the telegraph machine at time of RMS Titanic sinking, and by that missing in its distress calls while being closest to the sinking vessel. Granite Gaming says, is it possible to go down and see the wreck of Lusitania like how you can go down and see the Titanic? I don't know. I'll be honest, I really don't know. Hey, James Guy Photography. Aurora says, hi, Alex. When you visit New Orleans, will you take an additional trip to the Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee? It's the largest museum of its kind. That's a lot to ask. Tennessee is a long way from New Orleans. So, I can't do that. And I don't want to spend that much money to fly thousands of miles just to see that one museum. So, to be honest, I've seen videos of that museum, and don't really care for it, to be honest. Oh, James says, my favorite stories of the classic old ocean liners were those of their roles when transporting troops. Yeah, that's my favorite too, is learning how those old ocean liners became troop ships and stuff like that. They all became like heroes of war, you know. It's really neat, especially like thinking about Aquitania being in both wars, you know, that's incredible. Normandy says, most Titanic fans don't like it when you admit that you don't like the Titanic. That's true. I like the Titanic. I just don't hold it up to the pedestal that a lot of them do. It, you know, I have a video about that. It's called The Truth About Titanic. And it's all about how when I first got into any type of ocean liner, it was Titanic. And there was this bubble that I was in, and I later realized that a lot of Titanic fans are also stuck in this bubble, and the bubble is where you really only love Titanic. Like, it's your favorite one, it's the only one you can appreciate. And when I did a whole bunch of research on other ships, I just realized there were ships out there that were so much better than Titanic. Titanic was really not... The only thing that made Titanic famous was the fact that she sank. Because Olympic had completely overshadowed all of that fame that people like to award to Titanic. Olympic had previously overshadowed it the year before. You know, while Titanic was technically larger than Olympic, everybody knew she was only larger by a tiny amount. It didn't really matter to them as much as it mattered the year before that Olympic was the largest ship ever built. You know, and then the news of Britannic was quickly overshadowing Titanic. So, you know, and, you know, it wasn't the most luxurious ship ever built either, you know. Like, even Queen Mary's luxury is far more luxurious than Titanic was, you know, but because they're in that Titanic bubble, they can't see anything outside of it. They don't agree, you know. So that's kind of one of those things that I've just learned over time. John says, if you could sail on any ship in history, what would it be and why? The RMS Queen Mary. She's my favorite ship. You know, I love the Queen Mary. My whole channel is like 50% dedicated to Queen Mary. So, yeah, that would be the ship I would choose to sail on if I could go back in time. Uh, 101st Dalmatian says, are there any other railroad topics on your mind? The 999's speed record, Andrew's raid, Golden Spike. On my mind, no. I think part of it is because I don't know much about train history, so I don't even know where to start, but I am also very picky at the same time. I really only like old railroads, you know. I have... My friend of mine has been telling me about this one logging railroad that used to exist here in Oregon, and so I think that will be my first deep dive into like railroad history, will be that particular subject, and then I might do one about the Yosemite Valley logging railroad and stuff like that. Those are the things that interest me. I'm not just like generally interested in trains. I'm like specifically interested in trains. So, yeah, it's one of those difficult things because on my channel, I only want to cover topics that I find interesting. That's why my videos are as good as they are, is because I have an interest in what I'm talking about. But if I make stuff that doesn't interest me, the video won't come out interesting. Aurora says, do you have a favorite Disney princess? Yeah, I've always been partial to Princess Tiana because she's a cook. And cooking is what I used to love to do. Huh. James asks, when there were troops on ships like Queen Mary, were there class separations for officers and enlisted like when they had cruise passengers? Yes and no. So, on Queen Mary, everybody was separated by a button that they were given. The button had a color coordination to it. So you were either red, white, or blue. And that translated to the sections of the ship you could be, either forward, mid, or aft. And that was just to prevent the ship from becoming dangerously unbalanced or unstable because of all the GIs and troops that were on it. But the officers, to an extent, yes, they were kept separate, but not like classism. It really was more in line with the kind of it was really more in line with just how the military was. So officers ate in a separate mess hall. Same thing on the Queen Mary. The officers ate in the second class dining room, while the main troops and GIs ate in the first class dining room. You know, so they were definitely treated different. But other than that, they roamed the same places as long as they remained in their color coordinated areas. Max says, what do you think about Olympic class not using the double hull, even though ships before it had, and they've made ships much safer? So the double hull thing, I've since learned, was really only reserved for ships that were built to British Admiralty standards in case they needed to be put into war service. So the Olympic class ships were not built to those standards. So they therefore didn't require double hulls. But I do think that if Titanic had a double hull, like the Queen Mary, I think the sinking scenario would have been way different. James says, when I was a kid, I didn't think there would ever be another ship as big as Titanic. Really? Like, I'm trying to think, like, are you, like, do you mean, like you didn't think you'd ever hear of a ship that's bigger than Titanic, or you lived way back then, because I don't know how old you are, but maybe you're like a, you know, elderly person, and you never thought you'd see a ship that would surpass Titanic. I don't know what you're saying. I don't think you're that old. Thyfer says, I'm very grateful to my parents visiting QE2's bridge while sailing at almost 28.5 knots. Also sparked my childhood dream to become a deck officer, which is now coming true. Oh, congratulations! Would you ride the RMS Lusitania on a time where your survival rate was 100%? Yeah, if I knew that I was going to survive, then yeah, I definitely would have rode aboard Lusitania. I think anybody would, really, to be honest. Max, yes, of course I've heard of Costa Concordia. I remember when it sank, you know. It was 2012. I remember coming home from work and hearing about it and going, oh my gosh. Kobe says, do you think you could cover your china and your whole collection? What do you mean? Like with a cloth? Granny Gaming says, if you could go back in time and be a cook on the Queen Mary, would you? No. Being a cook is a really difficult job. Being a cook on an ocean liner is an even more difficult job. I think very few people took jobs as cooks aboard ocean liners with enthusiasm. I think most people did it because they needed a job. But that was a very, very, very difficult job. And dangerous, too. Very dangerous. Especially on Queen Mary. She was known as the Rolling Mary. And guess what they served to passengers, you know, on a daily basis? Soup. Imagine trying to cook soup on a ship that's rolling, you know, 8 to 12 degrees, you know, constantly. It's just, yeah, dangerous. I would not have wanted to work on Queen Mary. And kitchens are already a really hot place to be. So imagine being on an ocean liner where there's even less ventilation. Those kitchens would have been blazing hot. Everybody suffering. All right. Max says, what's your favorite White Star Line vessel, but that aren't ones that came after the Cunard and White Star Line merger? RMS Oceanic 1899. Hey, Fallon Wills, how's it going? Well, Titanic 2 sale, no, it was canceled last year. Fallon Wells says, what are you eating? Well, I just finished eating a traditional egg sandwich. My gosh, I can't talk today. And then I'm currently polishing off these homemade Scottish shortbread. Normandy says, it's amazing seeing your channel grow. Yeah, I know, isn't it? It's kind of cool. Aurora says, would you ever buy a Queen Mary sailor doll? Some are selling on eBay. No, I mean, it would be cool, but I am not a doll person. They scare the heck out of me. I do not like dolls. They are so scary. So I would not buy one, no. Max says, hey Alex, do you have any relatives or somebody you know that went aboard an ocean liner? Oh no. Absolutely not. Both sides of my family were always incredibly poor. And yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Well, you know, on my mom's side of the family, there had to have been, because some of my family comes from Ireland and England. So they had to have come here aboard an ocean liner. But there's no way I could know which ones. There's no way. My mother did all that genealogy a long time ago, but she never mentioned to me of them sailing aboard an ocean liner. But like I said, they had to have, because if they came from Ireland and the UK, they had to have. So yeah, I don't know. There's no way I could find out. Oh, whoops. Fallon Will says, did Lusitania win in a race against Queen Mary? Lusitania sank during World War I. Queen Mary wasn't even built yet. Oh, no way. Thomas. Stephen Payne. Yeah, I know Stephen Payne, actually. He emailed me a couple months ago. Very nice guy. Yeah. That's really, you know, it's kind of cool. The ocean liner community is like this small little community, you know, so it's really neat. Henry says, I think Kobe means to show us a video of your China collection. I personally would even love to see a video of you prepping the sandwiches. That's a good idea. I mean, I know, like, some people have been asking me to show them how to do that and stuff. I just feel like new people coming to the channel, specifically to see that video, would be like, what is this? This isn't a British afternoon tea. It's like the most basic thing you could do, which it really is. This is the most basic thing I can do. Because on Cunard, they would have had these fancy, fancy desserts and things. All these treats, and they would have had actual scones with clotted cream, and I can't do any of that. Like, I don't have the time to make that fancy stuff. The best I can do is I can make some tea sandwiches, I can make some, you know, Scottish shortbread, and then set everything up, but it's not at all like what they would have served on Queen Mary. So I feel like I started filming for that. I really did. I started filming for that, but then halfway through I realized, I'm like, this is pitiful. People aren't going to like this. Only the people who watch my channel already are going to like it. But new people are going to come in and be like, what is this? This isn't like a Cunard tea or anything like that, you know? It's not even like fancy. So I don't know. I kind of discouraged myself from doing it. Kobe. But in terms of at least talking about the Cunard China, yeah, I would be happy to. I'm trying to think because I almost feel like I already did, but maybe I didn't. But yeah, I don't mind talking about it. It's just, yeah, I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do. My dad has some information on, let's see. Yeah, but Dad, people are wondering about like a steam ocean liner. And so I'm thinking that like they sailed here aboard like a steamship. But the question would be like which one and stuff, but I don't know when they came here. And yeah, if they came to Ellis Island, then yeah, that definitely would have been aboard some kind of ocean liner. Ellis Island, they stopped. I think they stopped using Ellis Island in the 40s, so that would have meant that Mom's family came before the 1940s. I think I have that right. So yeah, I'm curious to know. Oh, see you later, Daniel. Have a good day. Goofy Roll says, I heard the British stopped in the middle of battles to have tea. Yeah, you know, that's what they did. They have to have their tea. Spencer says, Alex, what do you think the Halloween event will be like on the Queen Mary this year? Well, it won't be on the Queen Mary this year. It'll be outside the Queen Mary. But they're doing something called Shacktoberfest. So it's Shaquille O'Neal's... he's organized something to happen there. It sounds to me like just any other, like, Halloween horror event, you know. So, but yeah, it's apparently a popular thing. I've never heard of it before this year, but it's happening outside the Queen Mary on the parking lots and grass lawns just outside the ship. So my dad says that on my mom's side, they would have taken a ship during the 1800s. Yeah, that makes sense, because I was thinking... Oh, he says my grandmother always talked about her family coming aboard a wooden sailing ship. Oh, wow. That long ago. I didn't think it would be that long ago. For some reason, I would have thought maybe late 1800s, but... Well, it still could have been late 1800s. If they were poor enough, they would have... they would have hired a sailing ship instead of a steam ocean liner. Yeah. SS Normandy, that flag joke is it's not funny. That's pretty insulting. Um, Spyro says, Alex, have you heard of the SS Baltic? Yes, I have, in fact. LNG Vince says, during World War II, British soldiers would often get shot while they brewed tea outside their tanks. It got so bad that they installed a water boiler inside the tank. Oh my gosh. Oh no! The chat disappeared. Oh, wait, here it is. Okay. Yeah, you guys, sailing ship, that is way back. Like I said, there were still sailing ships, though, even until, like, I think the last sailing ship to be in service was in 1955, I think it was. So there were sailing ships even into the 1900s, and some of them were still ocean liners. But if you were taking a sailing ship as an ocean liner in the late 1800s, you had to be very, very poor because it was more comfortable to take a steamship and faster. But I'm thinking that it's possible that they came in the early 1800s on a sailing ship. Yeah. Spyro, yes, I've heard of the SS Atlantic. That one was the one that... Didn't that crash near Nova Scotia? And it got pinned amongst the rocks. And like almost every passenger and crewman aboard that vessel died from being slammed against the rocks. If I remember that story. Or unless that was Adriatic. Because I get the two mixed up. I think it was Atlantic that did that. British, says Lightning McQueen. Hyper says, our tanks still have the kettle water boiler today. That's hilarious. Fallon says, Alex, if Titanic never sank, would it be scrapped? Oh, most certainly. If it never sank, Titanic would not be famous at all. There, again, I have to reiterate to everybody here, there was nothing special about Titanic when she came out. The Olympic had stolen all the thunder of Titanic. There was nothing special about Titanic. If anything, there was something special about Olympic. You know, she was the first of her kind. The only thing that could have made Titanic special was if Titanic went through World War I just like Olympic did and survived, and, you know, and there was a whole story behind it, then I could kind of see that. But even then, Olympic went through World War I, and Olympic was still scrapped in 1935. Even after all the stories, you know, being nicknamed Old Reliable and all that, all the love that Olympic had, she still got scrapped. There was nothing special about Titanic, and that wouldn't have saved her from the scrappers any more than it would have saved Olympic. So, yeah. I don't say that to be mean to anybody, because I know a lot of people love Titanic, but they're just, I mean, when you really look at it on paper, aside from the sinking, there was nothing special about Titanic. Nothing more special than Olympic, at least, I should say. Let's see. Oh, I was right. Atlantic hit the rocks. That's right. Philip, yeah, there was a there's a ship here in the U.S. The USS Constitution. started sailing, I want to say, in the late 1700s, like 1799 or something like that. And it's still sailing to this day. Still sailing to this day. Oh, I see. So on my mother's side, those family members were in the Civil War. That's right. That's right. You were saying the Daughters of the American Revolution. Yeah. So you're right. They had to be. They had to have been there, and then participated in the Civil War. Oh wow. How do you know all this, Dad? Did Mom tell you all that stuff? Well, she had to, I guess, but maybe, yeah, maybe my grandma was the one that was always talking about it. She always talked and talked and talked about the family history, and I was a little kid, so I was like really tiny, so I didn't really care, but now I don't remember anything she told me. um... Kobe says, could you show us your favorite piece from the Cunard China? To be honest, my favorite piece is the teapot. There's still tea in here, so I don't want to get it all everywhere, but it's hard to see because the camera, this is just a cheap webcam, so it makes it look overly bright white, but there's stripes along it. And so from what I read on an article about this stuff, there's 3 different kinds of stripes that line the sides of everything. And it's 2 amber colored stripes and 1 large gray stripe. And it's supposed to represent the sun setting over the dark waters of the Atlantic, or the gray waters of the Atlantic. So, that's kind of why they have these particular colors of stripes. And the rest is all white because, you know, it's fancy bone china. You want to advertise that it's bone china, and the way you do that is you show how white it is. An interesting thing about these, I think I tried showing this before, but you see, I need a better camera to show you guys this because this camera blows out all the color. But the lid, on the underside of the lid, you have these 2 fins, and the fins are designed to grasp the back of the teapot, and they prevent it. So, like, see how I close the teapot? I have to, like, slide the lid into it. That's so if I lift the lid up, the lid doesn't want to come out. And it's specifically like that because it was built for being on an ocean liner. And when the ocean liner sways and stuff, you don't want the lid to come off the teapot. So that is exactly why it's like that. And people who buy these teapots don't know that those fins are there under the lid. So what they do, like with this teapot I bought, you can't see, but I'll just tell you, the little fins, the little porcelain fins underneath have been snapped off because someone along the lines was like, I can't figure out why I can't get the lid off this thing. And then they pull the lid off, and they're like, oh, okay. And then they slammed it down and snapped those things off. So, yeah. This teapot over here is the first teapot I bought. But when I tried brewing tea in it, I noticed that there were all these hairline cracks that developed along the bottom. Again, I'd show you, but the camera would just blow it all out to just an even white color, so you wouldn't see it. But there's hairline cracks all around the circumference of the bottom, and some going up the sides. And I learned that what had happened was somewhere along the lines, somebody was using this for tea. Probably the person that broke the lid, to be honest. And they didn't know that you can't just pour boiling water in bone china. So they poured the boiling water in here, and it cracked the whole thing. And so when I was making tea, I didn't see that because the fractures were so hairline, so tiny. I would have had to see it with like a microscope or something. And but the tea seeped through the cracks, and now you can see the brown in the cracks from the tea. So I don't use this teapot anymore. It's really here for decoration. I occasionally keep all this stuff. I occasionally wash it still, just to make sure no dust builds on it. But this is the one I use, so this was the second teapot I bought. And it is completely free of hairline cracks, which is amazing because sometimes, like, I get, like, this teacup, if I have a friend over, like when I have my friend Chris over, the first time I let him use this one, because this one doesn't have any cracks in it, but this one does, so I used this one. And you're probably like, why does it, if you used it anyway, why does it matter who you gave it to? Well, on most ceramic, foodware, or even china, prior to 1972, most likely contains lead. That's because they used lead for the colors on this stuff, because on the cookware, because all this stuff heats up and you're constantly washing it and washing it and washing it, the colors can fade. And so the lead prevents the colors from fading. And especially the white. The white over time could dull. So the lead was used to keep it white. So because it contains lead and there's a crack in it, that could potentially seep lead into your drink. And so I don't use this one except for when a friend is over. And it's not fully cracked. It's only cracked halfway down. So, you know, but I often am the one to choose to use this cup because I don't want to involuntarily give my friend lead poisoning. But, I mean, you can't get lead poisoning from drinking it once. It's just if you drink it consistently. But the other thing, too, like, one of my most favorite prized possessions is I have a postcard of the RMS Mauretania. And the postcard is in color, but the postcard dates back to 1911. And the thing about the postcard is that those paints are made with both lead and arsenic, because those help the colors be more vibrant. And the arsenic especially gives it kind of like a glowing kind of color to it, because it's radioactive. So I don't touch it with my bare hands. I have it in a plastic sleeve. But that is one of the most poisonous things I own, is a postcard that's painted with lead and arsenic. So I thought that's pretty cool. So I do live around a lot of things that are crazy. You know, there's somewhere here I have an object made of bakelite, and bakelite contains asbestos. So, yeah. So, yeah, it's fun owning that stuff. But I never thought I would own a Queen Mary tea set. Originally, I was looking for something... I was looking for a tea set that looked more masculine, because I'm not the kind of person that has, like, frilly little flowers on everything. But I stumbled across the Queen Mary tea set, and at first I looked at it, I'm like, that looks so boring. There's no design on it. There's, you know, it's just stripes. But then the longer I looked at it and I saw the cube style on everything, and I was kind of like, you know, this is my style. This really is. It's basic. It's also it's got a weird look because it's all cubes and stuff. So I was like, this is kind of my style, and I love the Queen Mary, so it fits. SS Normally says, have you watched the 1950s Titanic movie? I don't know the exact year. There were two movies of Titanic made in the 1950s, but the most famous of the two is A Night to Remember. And yeah, I've seen A Night to Remember. Pretty good movie for the 1950s. I don't generally like movies that are older than the 1970s. I don't judge me. I just, for some reason, the acting is a bit ham acting, so I don't really like them that much. But I like the movie Cleopatra. That's a 1960s movie, I think. But yes, I did see A Night to Remember, and it was actually pretty good. I still prefer James Cameron's Titanic, though. Fallon says, Alex, who is Up Morgan? I think you're talking about J.P. Morgan. So J.P. Morgan Sr. was a wealthy American financier, and he started the J.P. Morgan Company, which is still around today. And J.P. Morgan, he's significant to the ocean liner topic because J.P. Morgan owned a company. I don't remember. You guys would know. Correct me and tell me what it is. But he owned an organization that was like American Maritime Organization. And that organization eventually owned White Star Line. And so that's how White Star Line stayed afloat in the late 1800s through the early 1900s. And so, yeah. And then his son, J.P. Morgan Jr., was a frequent traveler aboard the RMS Queen Mary. He was the one that, he was actually on the last peacetime voyage the Queen Mary had before World War II, which was August 31st, 1939 is when it set sail. And he was on that final voyage. And he was the one that, J.P. Morgan Jr., he offered his own first-class stateroom to a family of refugees who were sleeping in the hallway, because at the time the Queen Mary was carrying lots of refugees who were fleeing Europe. A lot of them were Jewish refugees, and lots of families who were fleeing the war that was about to happen. And it was on that very voyage that that Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain declared war on Germany. And yeah, that is a memorable voyage. I should make a video specifically about that voyage because there are so many stories on that voyage alone. That'd be cool. Aha! I was almost right. Kevin says USS Constitution maiden voyage was on July 22nd, 1798, which is just 1 year before I said. So that's pretty cool. I was almost right. Elizabeth says, wait, are those all original and or Cunard made pieces? Yeah, these are all original Cunard pieces. So the newest piece dates back to... I'm going to move this a little bit so you can see better. The newest piece dates back to 1967. But the oldest piece I have dates back to 1952. I wanted to own some pieces from 1930s, but... those are really, really, really rare. They're hard to find. And I don't think they look as nice. These bone china ones are bright white, but the original 1936 ones were kind of an ivory color. And, yeah, I just don't... it's not my thing. I would own one if I had the chance, though. So, but, yeah, this is all original Cunard china from ships like Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth and... Mauretania 2, Sylvania, Caronia, all that stuff. This teapot, the owner had wrote a message inside, and it said, from RMS Queen Elizabeth. Now, it was a written message, so there's no certification that it was from RMS Queen Elizabeth. However, most of this china was sold from Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. When the two ships came to the United States, they both held huge auctions to auction off all the stuff inside the ships. And there was a lot of china, you guys. There was so much china that there are still huge stockpiles of it on the Queen Mary today. But they had so much china, they auctioned a ton of it off. And so it is most likely that pretty much all of these pieces came from either Queen Mary or Queen Elizabeth. It is highly likely. So, but, I can never confirm that exactly. But this is all original Cunard china. So it is from Cunard ships. Fallon says, will there be is there a 100% chance that there will be a Queen Mary 3? No, there's never a 100% chance. Normandy says, British be like, after selling Queen Mary, let's try to scrap it. I don't think they did. Oh, Mary M., thank you so much for the donation. Where did you get the Cunard china? Can I get it? Yeah, so the Cunard china, I got it all from eBay. So pretty much any antiques I ever buy are all from eBay, because that's the easiest way for me to do it. And a lot of people forget that eBay is out there. But yeah, so you look all this up, you look for Cunard Foley bone china. Foley spelled Foley, bone china. And you have to put Cunard because Foley makes their own bone china. But, and you'll see that there's a ton of stuff currently for sale. But the trick is to be patient, because some people, like some of these teapots are going for $175. I did not spend $175 on my teapots. I waited until someone desperate posted a listing for like $130. Or even this teapot was $75 because it was heavily damaged. I didn't know it was heavily damaged when I got it, but I got it for $75. But this one was $130, you know. And then I got a good deal where these three pieces back here, the creamer, the large creamer, and the large sugar bowl, I got these three for $125 total. But some of them are selling for $75 each. So if you're really, really patient and you just constantly monitor, you check every single day, eventually you will see these china pieces come in for a really cheap price, and you just snatch it up. And I never do the auctions. I always do the buy it now, because the auctions I think are a waste of money. But I always do the buy it now. So I never ever do the auctions. And then, but this was one of the best. This set of scallop dishes here, try not to drop them. These scallop dishes, it's hard to see because again, the camera just overexposes, but they're surrounded in like a gold trim. It's beautiful. These scallop dishes, they're called butter pat plates. And these were also from, you know, Queen Mary and stuff. And the butter pat plates, sometimes each one goes for like $20. I got this set of 5. Altogether, $16. Altogether, all 5. Because I was patient. Because some people are selling them individually for high prices, like $10 each. And $10 each doesn't sound so bad at first, but when I saw all 5 for $16, I was like, I'm getting that, you know. So, yeah, all on eBay. Granny Gaming says, fun fact, you can actually use your phone as a webcam for your computer. Yes, I know, but the phone is worse than this webcam. This phone can only do 720 for live streaming, and it comes out extremely pixelated. This webcam does 1080, and it comes out sharp. So, yeah, I do not use my phone as a webcam because of that reason. So this webcam looks much better. But tune in on Sunday, and I will have a different camera up, and it will look even better than this. So I'm really excited because this camera blows out colors really badly. It just whites them out. So that's why I can't show you any of the cool designs on this stuff, because if I bring it up to the camera, it just appears blindingly white. So, but the new camera that I have, it's a real actual camera, not a webcam. And you'll be able to see more details, more colors, and my blue background will pop a bit more than it already does. So, Let's see. Oops. Okay. RMS Gigantic says, what happened to RMMV Oceanic 3 in Harland and Wolff? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. Aurora says, do you think Cunard will ever make a ship with the ending of IA, like Carpathia, Mauretania? Or will it be Queens forever? It can't always be Queens because they're going to run out of Queens. So, you know, they have only one more queen that they can do, which is Queen Alexandria. So, if they do decide to make a much larger fleet of ships, they have one more queen, and then they got to start turning back to other names ending in IA. So, is it possible? Yes. Do I foresee it happening? No, but then again, I didn't foresee them having a fleet of 4 ships like this. You know, they have 4 queens now. They have Queen Mary, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth, and Queen Anne. I'm really surprised they went with Queen Anne and not Queen Alexandria. I'm really surprised about that. Normandy says, did you know the whole Spanish Armada from 1492 could fit inside the Queen Mary? I believe it. Did you guys know that the first Cunard ship, which was the Britannia from 1840, Britannia's hull could fit inside just one of Queen Mary's funnels. That's how big Queen Mary's funnels were. You could actually, like, push Britannia into the funnel. The funnels are so big that if you lined up 3 locomotives next to each other, all 3 could just ride through the funnel next to each other. Pretty crazy. Here we go. Dangerous Bind says, I was correct. Just checked. JP Morgan Company financed the formation of the International Mercantile Marine Company. That's right, yes. Yeah. That's the company I was trying to think of. International Mercantile Marine Company. Fallon says, Alex, the China Cunard thing was a stell. I think you mean a steal, yeah. Kobe says, I'm not sure if Queen Mary has a gift shop, but if it does, it would be cool if they remade Cunard China. So they did a couple years back, a couple years before the ship closed. Some friends of mine told me that Queen Mary did sell replica china aboard. And one of my friends says that they still sold it just prior to when the ship closed. Now, I was in those shops. I didn't see replica china. But there is evidence that they did. Just a few years before the ship closed, they were selling replicas of this china. It wasn't exact replicas, though. Yeah. I've seen photographs, and they're not exact replicas. They look similar, but yeah. And then, did you guys know that when Queen Mary was actually sailing the seas, she sold this exact set as a souvenir set? So you could find... So this is... For those of you guys who are looking to find authentic Queen Mary china, just be aware that sometimes if you look on the bottom, because the people who sell this stuff, they have to take a picture of the bottom so you can see that it says Cunard White Star Line or Cunard Steamship Company on the bottom. But you might also see if it says souvenir. That means that it was never used on the ship. It was sold on the ship as a souvenir for people to take home. But this whole set, none of it is souvenirs. This is all original stuff, you know, British people with their mustachioed faces and their powdered cheeks ate from all this stuff that I own. You know, people with their cigar encrusted mouths, drinking from the teacups. So yeah. But always look on the bottom. They have pictures on eBay. Always look on the bottom to see if it says souvenir, and if it doesn't say souvenir, then it's more authentic. Unless you're looking for the souvenir one. That's also cool too. Some people collect the souvenir ones. Yeah, Grand Gaming. I know. It's just I'm very picky about how about how everything looks. And I've tried my phone as a webcam. I really have. I didn't like the way it looked. So Thomas says Cunard left a lot of China on QE2 in Dubai despite de-storing her in the weeks after her arrival. Dubai are now reusing the China board. I've heard I've heard that they are reusing the China. Spyro. So, yeah, there's a difference though. Those cameras have a higher quality, but YouTube streams on phones at a lower quality. If you try to stream from your phone on YouTube, it will go down to 720, even if your camera is a 4K camera. So that's why I use my computer to do it. And there is a way to hook up my phone to the computer and blah, 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 and do all that. I've tried. I don't like the way it looks, so I'm doing something else. But, as Normie says, did you know in the 1920s televisions were invented, but most people got access in the late 50s to early 50s? Yes, that I do know. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to finish this. Every time I make a batch of these Scottish shortbread, I always give my sister like half of a sheet pan of it, because what I need is every time I make it, I need to make 1.5 recipes of it. It's just easier to make 2 full recipes and give my sister half of a recipe. So that's what I do. And they eat it all up in like one night. Oh yeah, Typher. So I'm not much of a collector of paper products, but I do have one luncheon menu from the Queen Mary on August 31st. 30th or 31st. I forget what day it was. I forget how many days are in August, but I think it was the last day of August, that's for sure, of 1939. That's when the ship sailed on its last peacetime voyage before World War II. So I have the luncheon menu from that. And then next to that, because I'm looking at it on my shelf, and next to that, I have a program from that same voyage. And of course, as those of you who know, or those of you who don't know, the program is a list of events, things that are happening on the ship for that day aboard the ship. So people knew how, where they could go to get entertainment and stuff like that. And then I have a race card behind that. And the race card is so that way they could play the game where, they throw the dice, and then the dice tell you how many spaces your little wooden horse can move on the board. And that's how you raced people. You did horse races like that. And that's pretty cool. So I have those as paper products, and one of my friends was like, oh, you should get more, you should collect more, they're really cheap. I'm like, I know, but I'm not much of a collector of paper products, so I like actual artifacts. Kobe says, I looked at bookings for the Queen Mary and all the cabins look basic. But I thought there was cabins with the original wood panels. There are, lots of them. There are more cabins on the Queen Mary with wood paneling than there are cabins without it. But the ones without the wood paneling are from second class. Now, second class, some of them did have wood panels. But as far as I'm aware, when the Queen Mary came to Long Beach in the 1970s, or 1969, but, or no, 1967, but what I mean to say is when she was converted to a hotel between 1969 and 1970, they were removing the walls of the second class rooms. They were like replacing them and repainting them and all that stuff. So a lot of the second class cabins look like that with the white walls and stuff like that. But if you get one of the original first class cabins, you will see the wood paneling. But the first class cabins tend to cost more. And that's just because they're more original. So there are way more wood paneled cabins than there are cabins that don't have wood paneling. But you just have to look and see what's available. But it doesn't do any good to look now because the ship isn't open and the website's been abandoned for 2 years. So Lina McQueen says, what is the oldest item you have? That's a good question. Let me think about it for a minute. Oldest item I have. Well, if you want to be real technical, the oldest thing I own is petrified wood. So when I was a kid, well, I better not say too much because it's actually illegal that I own that, but I didn't know that when I was a kid. But I do have a collection of a petrified branch, and it's couple million years old, I say couple, but it's probably like tens of millions of years old. But it's a branch, and it's broken into several pieces though because it's rock. But that is technically the oldest thing I own. But if you're talking about something man-made, I think the oldest thing I own, well, one thing that is confirmed is my postcard of the Mauretania, which is from 1911. That for sure is the oldest thing I own, but I might have something that's older. It's a decorative headband made by native Mexicans, like Mexican, like tribal natives. It was all handmade. It's done with beads and stuff, and it was woven together with like very fine threading. And that was given to my great-grandmother when her and her husband used to go, they went on an evangelistic tour, and they kind of preached to several villages and places all around U.S. and Mexico. And she was given that as a gift, and it was pretty old when she got it already, because I think it was like one of the nicest things one of the families had. And you could see that all the beads, I think it's jade, I think. No. It's turquoise, whatever it is. It's a stone. And all the beads are handmade. They're not like manufactured, like pumped out of a machine that makes beads like they would today if you were to make the same thing. It was all handmade. You can tell because each bead is not perfectly round. They're like bean shaped, and they're very, very minuscule. And they carved a hole in each one so they could thread the thread through it. And each hole is carved differently. It's either askew or in the middle, or, you know. So it's all handmade. And from my understanding, it was already very old when she got it. So it could date back to longer than that. But I don't know for sure. It could date back to longer than the 1930s or 40s or whatever. It could date back like to the early 1900s. But I don't know for sure. So, but what I do know for sure is besides that, one I can certainly claim is like one of the oldest man-made objects I have is that postcard from 1911. Oh, Spyro left. See you later, Spyro. Found Will says, Alex, if the third class rooms were still on Queen Mary, would you go on it? Like, as a voyage? Like, would I stay in a third class room on a voyage? No. Yeah, no. I would only go on a voyage on Queen Mary if I was allowed to either stay in a really nice second class room or a first class room. But I would not stay in a third class room because they were not... I wouldn't want to. No. It's... Third class on Queen Mary was better than the third class on any other ship at the time. But it was not at all by any means of our today's standards good at all. And some people think it is. They have the wrong idea, I think. They go, oh, it was third class on Queen Mary's really comfortable. Yeah, compared to other ships of the 1930s, but not by any means comfortable to our standards today. You know, so, I mean, imagine having to share the same toilet with like 40 other people. No. And then if you wanted to bathe, which most people didn't bathe that often aboard the Queen Mary, unless you were like in second or first class. But third class people didn't bathe as often. So, you know, it's just, it was like difficult to book a bathroom and stuff. And, you know, thankfully it wasn't like Titanic where, you know, strangers would have to rent the same room. So thankfully it wasn't like that. You got an individual cabin to yourself. But still... not comfortable. And most of the third class cabins did not have portholes to look out of. So some of them were just inside. And a lot of the third class cabins aboard Queen Mary were right above the boiler rooms. So they were hot. They were like really hot. So yeah, no thanks. No thanks. Hey Rayanne, how's it going? SS Normani says, Alex, would you stay in room B340? Yeah. There's nothing haunted about B340 at all. Like, at all. You know, like I've said on every single live stream, it's all made up. And a lot of it was made up by Disney, you know? So they're the ones that rigged up the whole room with special effects and created most of the stories that happened in that room. The only story that happened in that room... No, there was two stories that happened in that room that came from reality. There was a story of a woman who, during the days when Queen Mary was still sailing, this was like late 1960s, she claimed to have seen like a ghost with like red eyes standing at the end of her bed, and it pulled the covers away from her. The only truth to that is that, yes, there was a woman that did claim that, but she was staying on a different deck on another part of the ship when that happened. And she was extremely drunk. Extremely drunk. The stewards had to help her back to her room that night because she was drinking too much. So, yeah, there's no way I believe that. And then the other thing, too, is that
the other story about the dismembered, the guy who dismembered his family in that room and then killed himself. Like I said in the last live stream, that did not happen on the Queen Mary. It did happen, but not on the Queen Mary. It happened in England. I want to say the city of Bristol, and the man dismembered his family or killed them. I'm not even sure he dismembered them. I think he just killed his family, to be honest, and then he killed himself. And that happened in England. But the only tie to the Queen Mary with that story was that the grandmother of that family was sailing aboard the Queen Mary at the time of the murders. That's the only thing. And that grandmother was not staying where B340 is. She was staying in second class, which is all the way at the end of the ship, on the other side. So So those two stories, while they had slight bits of truth to them, they had nothing to do with room B340. So B340 is 100% not haunted, in my opinion. Yes, I would definitely stay in B340, especially because it's a very nice room today. It doesn't have the old wood paneling like I would prefer. I would still prefer the rooms with the wood paneling. But it's a nice room as hotels go. It's very, very clean. It's recently remodeled. It was remodeled in 2018. So it's very clean, very nice. The only thing is you have to deal with the fact that occasionally they operate little special effects where they turn on the bathroom faucet to scare you. So you have to deal with that. Getting up in the middle of the night like, oh, to go turn off the faucet now. But yeah, I'd stay on that. I'd stay in that room, Let's see. Granny Gaming says, this stream has good vibes. Thanks. I try to keep it with good vibes, good attitude. Can you imagine living in a haunted house and like every day you're just like, I guess I gotta close all the cabinet doors again, or or like you're brushing your teeth, you look up in the mirror, there's like a ghost behind you, and you're like, not again, Can you imagine? Granny Gaming says, hopefully the FBI isn't watching. Oh, no. Did I say something that the FBI wouldn't like? I don't know. I don't have any secrets. What are you talking about? Everyone's saying FBI now. Oh, I think they're talking. I see. They're talking about the petrified wood. Yeah. Oh, somewhere, I was just thinking about things that I own that are old. Somewhere I have silver servingware. So it's like, a lot of people haven't heard of servingware because they're not that old. But servingware is like large versions of forks and spoons that you use to serve food to people. And I have servingware that is from the 1800s, like 1850s. They're in one of my boxes. I don't know which one, but I have them, and they're made of silver. They're like actual silver. They tarnish and everything. So I have those somewhere. Yeah. So that's probably the oldest man-made thing I have. Fallon Wills says, what am was owned by Disney? Oh boy. So if you're asking about when Disney owned Queen Mary, first, Disney never owned Queen Mary. They leased it. They leased it from the city. The city has always owned the Queen Mary. They leased it from the city, but they got that lease because they bought out the Ratherport Corporation, which had operated the Queen Mary. Ratherport leased it from leased it from Long Beach, and Ratherport had leased it for, I want to say 10 years exactly. I want to say 78 to 88. Technically 89 because of Disney, but Disney bought out Ratherport Corporation, and they then inherited the lease of the Queen Mary, and they officially took over in 1989, and they had Disney had the lease of the Queen Mary till 1992 when they gave it up and sold the lease to someone else. But nobody has ever owned the Queen Mary. Just the city of Long Beach has owned the Queen Mary. Only people lease it from the city. Thomas says the third class on Queen Mary not being up to scratch these days reminds me of the QE2's lower deck cabins. My parents and I had not been up to standards today, including being hot amidships. Yeah, did you guys stay in the lower cabin? I'm guessing you did because you're describing it. I don't know if QE didn't have third class, right? They had like basically 2 classes. I don't remember what they called them because QE was like a whole different time frame than what I do on my channel. So I don't know much about the QE, or QE2, I mean, the QE2. But yeah, staying up. So I don't know if they had third class per se. But yeah, let me know because I'd love to learn stuff about the QE2. Thomas says a number of QE2's passenger cabins were relocated to crew over QE2's life due to changing passenger demand, each cabin being hand-built instead of prefabricated like now. Oh yeah, that's true. Each cabin being unique and having some very interesting layouts. There were many original aspects, such as the chest of drawers, right up until she retired to Dubai. I've heard about the chest of drawers, yeah, actually. I would smash the sink if that ever happened to me in the hotel. If my house was haunted, it'd just be my luck that my ghost would be a snorer. Oh, totally, yeah. Unfortunately, Dubai have completely rebuilt the cabins, disposing a lot of the original stuff, which has most of the chest of drawers, which were all worn from the many storms. Oh, that's sad. Yeah, I do know that they restored a lot of the rooms and made them larger and made them more fancy. It's so unfortunate that happens, you know, but at the same time, when you look at, like, it's hard because a lot of the ocean liner fans, they see, but they don't comprehend. So they see that the cabins on these old ships were small and tiny and compact. They see it and they go, oh, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. They don't comprehend that the average person staying in there today would really hate that experience. It's too small and too cramped and, you know. I also heard that much of the QE's passenger cabins were not originally air-conditioned. Now they all are. So, you know, so that's something else. I mean, granted, you didn't really need air conditioning on the North Atlantic because it was always so cold, but, you know, but since the QE2 is in Dubai, now they need air conditioning, but, you know, so there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, like, it would be so nice to stay on Queen Mary, even in third class. I'm like, you would hate it. You would hate it, you know. Peden says, are the ship's original galleys kitchens still in use for food service on board? Is any of the equipment in use original? Are you asking about the Queen Mary? Because I can say yes. There are a lot of the original galleys on the Queen Mary that are still being used to serve you food today. So the biggest one served food for both the first class main dining room and the second class main dining room. And it was sandwiched in between both of them. That's the main kitchen. And they still use that kitchen for making most of the food that is prepared on the ship, as well as preparing food for the banquets that happen in the first class main restaurant, which I think today is called the Queen Salon. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know. Granny Gaming says, why is petrified wood illegal? Because it is so rare, and it only occurs in certain areas of the United States. It's almost like stealing a fossil. So it's like walking up and seeing like a T-Rex bone and just taking it. Like, that is so illegal. I can't even tell you. It is owned by the federal government. So, yeah. But you see, I was a little kid. I was like 3. I didn't know. You know. Yeah. You can't burn petrified wood because it's made of stone. It's fossilized, so it's all stone. And even when I look at the petrified wood I have, you can kind of, in some of them, if you look in the very center, there's crystals. So it's where like the wood had rotted out, left a cavity, and then crystals grew inside. Kobe Marlowe says, if money wasn't a problem, let's just say infinite money, what would you do and buy? Most obviously, I would immediately call up the city of Long Beach, tell them I have infinite money, and tell them I will offer them a great sum of money to purchase the Queen Mary and restore it myself. It would be a very long and complicated process because the ship is not seaworthy, so I can't transport her immediately. I would need to spend like $1 billion repairing her where she is, and then I would move her to somewhere better. Long Beach is not actually... I know a lot of people are like, oh, Long Beach is like the worst place to keep the Queen Mary. It really isn't. Long Beach is one of the best places you could keep the Queen Mary, believe it or not, because the weather is perfect for preserving a ship like that. The other thing, too, is that you've got the whole LA area, and the whole LA area generates a lot of tourism, which helps the Queen Mary. Believe it or not, you cannot oversaturate a tourism market. It doesn't work that way. It's not like building 4 Starbuckses at the same street corner. You can't oversaturate it like that because tourism is different. You can oversaturate a market by building multiple Disneylands, building multiple Universal Studios theme parks, and they all look the same and operate the same in the same area. That's how you oversaturate, but you cannot oversaturate a tourism market with different attractions. That's not how it works. In fact, they all work together to generate more tourism. That's why the county of Los Angeles and Orange counties both work together, and they make a lot of money off of tourism. So Queen Mary is as successful as she is, with 1.5 million visitors per year, or sometimes 2 million visitors per year, all because of the fact that LA is so popular. So Long Beach is not a bad location for the Queen Mary. It's just that no one has ever gone through with developing the parking lot next to the ship into a nice place for locals to go and hang out. That's the key thing that's missing from Queen Mary, besides restoring the ship itself, is that the land around the ship needs to be developed. So it's not just a blank parking lot. SS Normandy says, my house was built in the early 1930s, which means my house is older than the Mary. I don't know. RMS Queen Mary's keel was laid down in the year 1930. So, I don't think it's older than the Mary. Jack's ship says, hi guys, I'm going on a cruise soon. Awesome. Fallon says, Alex, there's a story about a little girl that drowned in a Queen Mary pool. Yeah, it's a famous story. It's, again, made up by Disney. They say that Jackie drowned in the pool and now she haunts the first class swimming pool. No, that's really not possible, because the story goes that Jackie's drowned in the second class swimming pool, not the first. So why is she haunting the first class pool and not where the second class pool is? Another mystery. But the other thing, too, is that children were not allowed in Queen Mary's pools. They were not allowed anywhere near them. You couldn't go into those rooms with a child. So a child could not have gotten in there and drowned. The other thing, too, is that there's never... Cunard kept amazing documentation of anybody who ever died aboard the ship, except for the war years, because the war was, that was all military operated. But during all peacetime services, Cunard kept an impeccable record of everybody who ever died. There's never been a record of a drowning aboard the Queen Mary, let alone the death of a child from, drowning aboard the Queen Mary. There's no record of it. It was entirely fabricated by Disney. So even to this day, when people go into the first class pool and they claim that they see Jackie, they're seeing a Disney character. So, Jack's Ships says, my nan used to see the Queen Mary at her wharf in Southampton. That's pretty cool. Pete and Harley says, yes, ask him about Queen Mary's galleys. Thank you. You're welcome. Kobe says, Alex, talking about the cabins being small and the average person wouldn't like the experience. Room cabin, I am beautiful in every single way. Yes, words can't bring me down. Would you put the Queen Mary in the Southampton run? What's the Southampton run? Tyler Frederick says, how good is the Vampire Chronicles? I'm considering getting them when I finally get my parents. Huh. Well, I mean, that is kind of off topic, but, you are a very nice person, so I'm going to answer your question. The Vampire Chronicles are amazing books. I've already read all of them at least once. I'm currently working my way through them again because I'm reading the second book all over again, and I'm falling in love with it all over again. Anne Rice is an amazing writer, and the descriptions of the place settings and the amazing depth of the characters, it's great. I love the Vampire Chronicles. Everything just flickered. I miss the cozy nature of the cabins my parents and I had on QE2's lower decks, as well as the portholes we had. I used to sit in the porthole space and watch the sea go past. Oh, that must have been amazing. John Disney says, you look dapper in your clothing. Thank you so much. Do you think Queen Mary will ever go back to sea like Queen Mary 2? No, I don't think so, because Queen Mary is much more valuable as a historic ship. You do not want to have to rip her apart and rebuild her just to make her seaworthy again in that way. It's not a good idea, and I wouldn't want it to happen. Queen Mary had her time. She was an amazing ship, and she left the industry on a high note with a bang. So no, I don't like the idea of sequels, and the same goes for ships. The Queen Mary had her time. She earned her retirement. She deserves she deserves to sit there and relax and have everybody just admire the ship, Thomas says, the QE2 was originally 2 classes, first and tourist, until the mid-1980s on the transatlantic, but always 1 class cruising. That makes sense. And Conrad said, I just got home, probably about to finish the stream. Yeah, I am. We've been on here for 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I'm trying to read through all the comments and then finish it. Alex is in B340 right now with the lights flickering. It feels like that sometimes, but... Alright, folks. that does it for this live stream. Be sure to tune in on Sunday for the afternoon tea then, because I'm going to have my new camera, and it's going to be a surprise. The whole setup that you see here in front of you is going to change. So it's going to be really cool. At least I hope it will be. This Saturday is the new show, Queen Mary Tech 101, The Boilers. It is a live stream just like we do with Queen Mary's Lost Places, except not only will we show the boiler rooms, we'll talk about how they operated, how the ship's boilers operated, and how they supplied the ship with steam. And that series will go on with more engineering facts and figures about the Queen Mary. It'll be really entertaining. Be sure to tune in if you've never seen these kinds of live stream shows before. I will be there. My friend Steve Ablonsi, who is, I would consider, a Queen Mary historian, because I mean, I know people think I know a lot about Queen Mary, but Steve knows like 10 times more than I do. So I learn stuff just like you guys are learning as I'm watching the stream. So tune into that on Saturday, and then this Friday will be a history video, kind of history. It's a fun fact video, but a history video about the Queen Mary. So that'll be this Friday, and then right after that video is out, I'm going to try to start working on my video about the H4 Hercules, also known as the Spruce Goose. So thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.